Hi friends, in this video we're going to talk about painting surfaces while watching the time lapse of this dahlia painting. Here's the reference I used and how I keyed the painting, which basically means determining the value range that I'm going to be working within. If you want to learn more about my process, I'll link the main video for this series on how to paint white flowers in the description. But first, for those that don't know me, my name is Christine Mercer-Vernon and I create floral paintings of favorite garden flowers. Okay, let's talk about painting surfaces. And I want to start out by saying I absolutely hated this surface. There's nothing wrong with it at all. The company I purchased them from makes a solid, sound, really great product. I use a lot of their products, so I don't want to mention them because it has nothing to do with product and everything to do with the surface I prefer to paint on. These are acrylic gesso primed panels, and I purchased them to save myself some time since they were already cradled. Usually I cut and prepare my own panels, build and attach the cradles, and prime them with an oil ground. But right now I'm under pressure painting for 2 group shows and I was trying to save myself some time. Unfortunately, no art manufacturers sell cradled oil ground panels, which is why I ordered these. Now, why don't I like the surface? Well, it comes down to 2 things: how the paint responds on the surface and the texture or tooth of the surface. Let's start by comparing the 2. Acrylic gesso is water-based and can be applied with a brush or roller and can be used for both oil and acrylic paint. It dries fairly quick, and depending on the application, it tends to have some tooth or texture and is somewhat absorbent. It works great for painters applying thick paint who want their surface to grab and hold on to that paint. Oil ground is oil-based and can be applied with a brush or a roller and is for oil paint. It is not suitable for acrylic paints. You'll need a well-ventilated area to apply it, and you need to take proper precautions, especially if it is one that contains lead. It's also very slow to dry. However, the surface will level out by reducing any textures from whatever you applied it with, creating a smoother surface to paint on. It's also less to non-absorbent, allowing for finer detail, better retention of color saturation, and paint that glides across the surface, which is what I love most about it. When it comes to choosing one over the other, it really depends on how you like the surface to respond to the way that you apply paint. I work on oil ground aluminum composite panels because I prefer a smoother surface with just a little bit of texture that is not at all toothy. I like to apply a brush stroke and then move on. But on this acrylic gesso surface, you can see how I really have to work to apply the paint and move it around. I'm not used to that, so I ended up getting really frustrated and the painting took much longer than it should have. I'm so used to working on an oil ground that this sudden texture and absorbency change threw me quite a bit. It also took more paint than I'm used to complete the same size painting, which means I had to mix up a lot more paint. Since each area is finished as I go, one layer of paint is generally all I apply, and I don't apply it very thick. But this surface was so absorbent that the paint barely moved once it touched the surface. But this is a great way to push myself outside of my comfort zone, and it really enforced why I paint on the surface that I do. Which makes this a great lesson, that if you are struggling with a surface, experiment and try some other ones, because there are a lot of choices out there, like stretched canvas or linen, which can also be mounted to boards or aluminum composite panels. You can also paint on prepared hardboards, wood, copper, and aluminum composite panels, and they're all available primed in either acrylic gesso or oil ground. You can even buy them pre-cut and unprimed and finish the surfaces yourself. And fun fact, my second favorite substrate to paint on is oil primed birchwood panels. I spent years really frustrated and struggled applying paint the way that I wanted to until I started experimenting with different substrates and surface preparations. Once I had that sorted out, it took those frustrations away and I was able to focus on developing my body of work. And by the way, you can see that I really struggled with this one petal. I ended up repainting several areas of it multiple times because I just could not get it to work. And in this area, you see how I'm taking my time. It's because I'm comparing the shape of this specific area of color and value against my reference, because I want to make sure I get it just right. I talk about this in my main video for how to paint white flowers, how I first block in areas of color and value in almost like a posterized way, and then I very gently merge them together with very simple brush strokes. But because of the texture and the absorbency of this panel, I was really struggling to get those very specific delineated edges that I'm used to working with. So I was really pushing paint around a lot. I'm telling you, I was really frustrated. But I powered through and I got the painting done, and I realized that I definitely do not want to be painting on this surface again. And like I said before, it has nothing to do with the quality of the product. These are really great panels. This company makes really, really good products. Like I said before, I use a lot of their different products. It's just that this surface doesn't work for me. And that's why I really encourage you, if you're struggling with paint application, to get out there and try some other surfaces, because you might be surprised. It just might be the way that you work doesn't work for the surface that you're working on. And you don't have to spend a lot of money and go buy large panels to experiment. Most panels that are pre-made come in smaller sizes. Some companies that produce their own brand of panels and sell them independently also sell sample packs where you can try multiple different surfaces and smaller sizes, and that will help you kind of play around, paint the same painting 5 different times on 5 different surfaces and see which surface you found that you were able to work a lot easier, a lot faster, that worked better with your process. It's all about experimentation, especially when you're in the early stages. It's really good to try a lot of different things. And you have to remember that not every painting needs to be a great painting. You have to take that time to really experiment, to try new things, to try things that you're not used to doing, to try products that you're not used to working with, and surfaces that you're not used to working with, and even experiment with different subject matter. And just a reminder to check out the other videos in this How to Paint White Flowers series. There are 4 videos, an in-depth mini boot camp, and 3 time-lapse painting videos, and I'll link them in the description. And don't forget to hit subscribe. I created this channel to share what I've learned over the past 30 years with other Gen Xers and up who are looking to start or restart their art practice. So to recap, there are a lot of different painting substrates and surface preparations, and which one you use will really depend on your painting application process. Don't be afraid to experiment and try other surfaces, and remember, it's okay to have paintings that are failures. You need to have them to make forward growth. I've definitely had my share. Trust me, I've painted over or trashed many, many failed attempts. It's all part of the process. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check out the other videos in this series.